You got to know that whether you're addicted or whether you're just watching, casually, to some level, it's going to make you a little lazier.
Chris, thank you for your service to this country and what you're doing now for the entire world. Stepping way out of my comfort zone here, so I ask my name be kept confidential. I'm addicted to porn. I've never actually entertained the idea that it could be harming my relationships, work, and well-being until recently. What advice do you have for me, and from your perspective, how significantly can a porn addiction affect someone's life? Thank you for your guidance and empathy. Anonymous.
Yeah, so this is a really good question. And it's interesting because during this last round of questions that were submitted for this podcast, I received some version of this question 15 times. 15 different people asked 15 different ways. Not everybody necessarily stated they had an addiction, but a lot of people asked about this. And I think it was because of a piece of content I put on my story a while back that was just kind of a promotion tool for the podcast. But I think it made people think that I had released a podcast on it or I was going to, whatever it is. But it's interesting. This is something that people want to know because obviously a lot of people watch porn. A lot of people watch a lot of porn. So look, this individual, obviously, good for them for having the self-awareness and the courage to admit this and to ask, to seek counsel and to seek guidance. So, I respect that. I think it's cool. The fact of the matter is, porn is going to drain your energy. If you're watching it, obviously, if you're watching it as much as this individual is to the point of an addiction, it's going to drain your energy. But at any level, it is going to drain your energy to some degree. Now, people there's research and there's real science behind this because porn, just like drugs, alcohol, and other unhealthy addictions, it's something that people struggle with. And there's actually research that's been done on this. There's been a lot of studies. And what a common thing that you hear from people who struggle with porn addiction is just an overall lack of energy, drive, and motivation. And the reason that happens, and if you're watching porn regularly, it has actually been shown that it can potentially rewire your brain. Okay. And it's possibly linked to a decreasing amount of gray matter in the brain. For those of you who don't know what gray matter does, the gray matter areas of the brain are linked to basically drive, self-control, motivation, all of these things. So problem solving skills, these type of things. So if you're consciously doing something that is actively decreasing your amount of gray matter in your brain, you're probably going to feel lazy. You're probably going to feel unmotivated. You're probably going to feel, not so willing or able to get up and get after it and kick some ass. So, the fact is you got to know that. You got to know that whether you're addicted or whether you're just watching, casually, to some level, it's going to make you a little lazier. It's going to make you a little less motivated, a little less driven. Now, if your levels of motivation and drive and self-control and all these things, if they're not a problem, I really wouldn't worry about it because, look, I'm not going to sit here and act like the golden boy who's never watched porn because that would be a bold-faced lie. I think that people need to be aware of how they're feeling, of what's happening in their life. And if they feel like they lack energy, if they feel like they're not feeling as motivated as they would like to, if they're not, making things happen in their life at the level that they want to, and they are spending any amount of time watching porn, maybe you want to look at that. Maybe you want to dial back on that and kind of see where you're at. The other thing about porn is when you're consuming it frequently, you're basically encouraging and promoting feelings of instant gratification. And that's obviously not advantageous on the human psyche. Delayed gratification, however, which of course is a form of self-discipline, that is basically a critical skill that's needed for goal setting, success, and just basically maintaining control of your life. So the more you can practice behaviors that promote delayed gratification, obviously the better position you're going to be in to succeed in life. This individual asked for some advice. I've worked a lot with people that have suffered from addiction and substance abuse, whether it's alcohol, drugs. Obviously, throughout the years, I employed a lot of these individuals, brought them into our culture, gave them an opportunity to basically be part of something where they would have the ability to have a productive, positive outlet to focus on, to hopefully beat their addictions. And seen a lot of success, also seen a lot of failures. I mean, beating addiction it's hard. It's not easy. What I've learned and noticed, what the common denominator has always been between the people who are able to successfully facilitate that change and sustain it, versus the people who didn't, is they essentially replaced that unhealthy negative addiction with a positive one. Because you can't just drop something without replacing it. Because, when you're sitting, alone with your thoughts and, you're bored, it is only a matter of time before your brain gravitates back to the known, back to the familiar, back to the comfortable, and back to what you were used to.
I'll add to that. I did some research on addiction too, back in the day, working with people. And I came across one doctor who had a really interesting theory. His theory was that people were chasing dopamine, that they weren't wired correctly in their brain to create enough. So when they did things like shop too much or had sexual addictions or stole things or whatever it is, it was because that made them feel better. It created a dopamine release.
Sure.
And they were just, in a long roundabout way, they were just trying to feel normal.
Right.
And then that addiction becomes an issue.
Yeah.
But they're chasing dopamine. I always thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure.
To your point, if your addiction becomes like training or something like that, it's a much better addiction with much better dividends in the payoff.
Sure.
It's unbelievable. Right?
And there's, there's debate about this, but, there has been studies that have been done that show, individuals who are not like ejaculating as much are going to have higher levels of testosterone than people who are. So, I don't have concrete numbers like on that, but that's objectively true. So, with that said, testosterone is obviously, as a man, it's pretty important. It's directly related to your physical energy, your mental energy, just your willingness to get up and just make things happen. I mean, if, people who have low testosterone or don't have sufficient levels of testosterone, they're going to be chronically fatigued, depressed, obviously struggle with their mood, overly tired, just not really have the energy that's needed to live life at the capacity it's capable of. So, it's one of those things where like you got to pick a positive, productive outlet to focus on. And does that mean like you completely stop watching porn forever? Honestly, maybe or maybe not. It all depends, because it really depends the severity of your addiction. Because if you were addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol and it, was, destroying your life, destroying your relationships, destroying your career, just completely f***ing your shit up. When you give up drugs or give up alcohol, most people who have those severe addictions, like they don't go and dabble back into that because it kind of reactivates that cycle and that pattern. So everybody's different. Now, I'm not saying that, nobody here should watch porn. I'm saying be mindful of where you're spending your energy. Look, like we have a finite amount of energy every single day. And if we're deploying it into areas that are not really going to serve us, or not going to be, productive, or are just taking away from our ability to invest energy in the areas of our life that are going to serve us, then, we have to make that decision. Like, what's more important?